Good morning, Soul Fam. Good morning, my lovers. The sun is shining and the skies are blue, and I've had my coffee and I'm sitting here in my little conservatory to bring to you today a little focus or intention or some food for thought. I taught yoga yesterday, and what seems to be coming through to me at the moment is the need to drop into our heart space, to drop into our own hearts, out of the mind, out of the chaos, out of the thinking mind, into the feeling. And it's something that I've done throughout my life, but you can drop in and you can drop out, and you can be up in your head when things are very chaotic or stressful, or you're overly distracted and you haven't had enough alone time perhaps, or you've missed your rituals and your habits and your practices that bring you home to yourself. So in yoga class yesterday I was speaking about dropping into the heart and coming home to yourself, because we are our own home. I remember as a little girl I did a lot of traveling, and there was times when I had to leave friends behind, or I'd have situations where I predominantly felt like an outsider, and there was always this voice that said to me, but you've always got me. And I realise now that was me. That was me parenting or comforting myself, that even in a place where you're completely on your own, or it feels like you're the odd bod or out of I think I'm portraying myself wrong here. I was always popular, people liked me, but I always had this sense of I wasn't fully understood by people. So in that sense I felt like an oddball or an outsider. It wasn't that I didn't have friends or people disliked me, but there was always this sense of no one really gets me, like no one really gets me. So again, this little voice would always say, but you've always got me, and there was times when I'd struggle or had been in grief or whatever sad or difficult situation I was facing, that there would always be this sense of coming home to myself, coming home to dropping into the body like we've spoken about recently, and coming home to yourself. Anyway, I just wanted to read this about your focus, or your drishti as we call it in yoga. Your drishti is a point of focus, and it can be something that you're visually looking at. So often in poses I'll ask people to find a drishti if they're doing a standing balancing pose. So I say, like, look at something like a mark on the floor, or something at your line of vision, like eye height, something that's not moving, something that you can focus on to keep you centered and balanced. And that can be metaphorical drishti, or it can be a physical drishti, but that's what this is talking about here. So it says, in yoga, the Sanskrit word drishti can mean seeing, a point of view, or inner vision. It can also refer to a gazing or focal point. Practicing drishti can be as simple as staring at a flickering flame or a candle during meditation, or choosing a spot on the wall to look at to help you maintain balance in a yoga pose. To focus means to steady yourself, to direct your attention and to concentrate upon something. To do this, we have to reduce all the distractions around us. Through drishti, we can temporarily narrow the scope of our vision so we can dive more deeply into a specific place or a state of mind. We temporarily put on blinkers so that we can have a deeper experience of one thing rather than a broad experience of many things. And in this way, we begin to direct not just our attention, but also our lives. And I guess what I wanted to say here was, when you focus and you bring attention to that which your heart is calling you to, it can only propel you forward, and the path will illuminate in front of you. We can be like, whoa, what direction do I take? Where do I go? If we have multiple options, and we can be in the mind and think of the most logical option, or we can try and make choices and decisions based on external factors or other people's opinions, or we can, you know, just do what the status quo. But when you walk a life of faith, you will often be led down paths that are potentially non-conventional, and they're not been done before, or it seems like illogical to do that. Often the decisions that I've made in life have appeared illogical or against the grain, or no, you're going in the wrong direction, or that doesn't make sense. But to me, if I know it makes sense, you can't stop me, okay? So if I know that I've been called somewhere, even if I don't know how it's going to look, I'm going to take that path. So speaking of drishti and dropping back into the heart, I feel like I'm being led back to that space. Last night, as I was falling asleep, I speak a lot of the chief. He's this metaphorical, but he's also an ancestor of mine in blood. But he's appeared and he's always guided me. I do believe he kind of represents Jesus in a sense. He represents that fatherly Godhead type of guide, because he carries the same energy. But he's been in my heart space, and he revealed himself. If you look back at some of my videos, that he's always there. He's always been there, which to me suggests that, you know, that's like Jesus, you know, being in your heart, in your life, as a guide, as a comfort, and all the things that come with having that sense of being connected to source, to God, to love. Anyway, he was having a little bonfire in my heart space last night, and he just looked at me. He said, come and sit with me a little while. Come and sit by the fire and come to your heart space. And it was such a beautiful invitation. I wanted nothing more than to sit around that campfire with him. And then he said to me, come on, Anouk. And I was like, Anouk? Well, he's just called me Anouk. That's not my name, my birth given name. But you know how these things go. So I immediately looked it up. And it's a girl's name, derived French, Danish, I believe, which means to be favoured. God favours her, and to be full of grace. And the whole presence, the whole feeling of how he was inviting me, how he felt, what he was calling me, it embodied this sense of, I'm favoured, and I'm a little girl. Although I'm a grown woman, I felt like a little girl that was favoured and loved and adored by this presence, by God, inviting me to come and sit by the fireplace, the metaphorical fireplace of the seat of my heart. And I knew that he was calling me somewhere just with that flash vision of this fireplace. And I closed my eyes, and again, I spent the evening travelling, and this train's annoying, and I truly believe that I visited places that I have been there before, but I have no memory of visiting them as me. And there were places that I went that I'm brought to tears, being reminded of how I felt, not what I could see. And again, that's about the heart, it's about feeling. I went to these places that felt to me like the most home I've ever felt. And I couldn't even tell you what was there in a sense of with my eyes, but it was how I felt. And I was being shown these things. I was being shown 4, 4, 4 all the time. There was 2 of everything, but there was also 4 of everything. And there was a male and a female, and there was a yin and a yang. But there were these things clumped together in 4s. I saw this peacock, a female peacock, and then she was looking for her male peacock, and he displayed himself as they do with the quack, and out came all the tail feathers with, you know, the peacock eyes all on the tail. And when I saw all those eyes, it did something to me, and I was like, I'm at home in a place full of eyes and wings. And that's in Revelation and Ecclesiastes, what is it, Ezekiel, the place with eyes and wings and the wheels. But I knew I was home there, and I knew that I was part of this energy of these eyes and wings, like being able to see multiple places all at once. Not sure this video is going to be long enough. And I also saw myself doing the downward facing dog, which creates a triangle, and my sacrum, my tailbone, was pointing up. So my lower chakra was pointing up, shooting out. And then I saw another triangle, and it was literally making the Merkaba, or the Star of David. And it was about balance and coming into the heart center. and I just found it really beautiful.